Tom, what's going on, my man?
Hey Ryan, thanks for having me on, brother. Excited to spend some time with you, learn a little bit, and hopefully share some of our vision that both of us have. So excited to be here.
I'm excited. All right, for those of you who don't know, Tom Ahles is awesome. He is just crushing it in mortgage, and he just has everything dialed in. And today, I want to discuss with him a topic that is strong. Is I have a strong opinion about. I think people in our industry work way too much. They don't have systems in place. They are working 12, 15, 18-hour days. And yes, there's times to grind, but when people are doing this day in, day out, year after year, something's going to give. And it's usually their bodies, their minds, whatever it is. And they're just not enjoying themselves. And I know you have a system dialed in. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about how you have set up your business and maybe give some insights to people out there that are working way too many hours.
Yeah, 100%. I think what initially even kicked this off between you and I was somebody asking on even a mortgage calculator, right? Like how do I do this to where I don't have to keep sending rate payments or the point of sharing? Customers are reaching out to you, hey, what would my payment be on this house? And a lot of it, as you mentioned, is kind of utilizing the technology that's available to us. So, for me, technology is always changing. It's helping me to where I'm focusing my time, what I always like to call the $800 an hour job compared to the $15 an hour job, right? Um, data entry, data collection, uh, even things with, what's my payment? It's an important question that I want to make sure that my buyers know, but also in a market where we've got PMI rates that are different. There's so many things to where each loan, even though most loans are pretty much the same, not really though. You look at the intricacies and okay, well, this person has a 719 credit score and they're 5% down. What's my payment? Well, it's really tough that I can direct them to my website and say, okay, well, here's a mortgage calculator. But does your average borrower know what annual MI rate is on that loan? Or and it's important to them. I think that my stance on someone buying a home is they're buying two things, right? They're buying the real estate and they're buying the money. So I want to make sure as they're going through a due diligence process on buying real estate that they're also doing the same thing on the financing side of it to make sure that when they're making that decision, that I'm giving them all of the access to that information at their fingertips, but without it interrupting my time, right?
Right.
And I think if I walk through it and I kind of jump around a little bit, it's just how I am. Well, from the beginning stages, right, when I get a new client that's looking for a pre-approval, a couple of things right away. I don't do applications over the phone anymore. To me, I
Okay.
think having clients do an online application, not only is it going to make sure that there isn't as many errors on data entry. I don't say I have fat fingers, but sometimes because you're entering somebody else's social,
Right.
you miss that one button, all of a sudden you're responsible for that error. So,
Right.
for me, right from the beginning, even if it's a weekend and somebody's looking to get pre-approved, my very first step is to direct them to my application site. Now,
How long has it
um,
been since you've taken a paper app?
I occasionally will get an old timer that'll come into my office, so I don't mind. It's not that I won't do it. It's just nowadays most people, and it's sad to say you and I are even getting to the age where we're considered older now. You get to your 40s, and it's like, well, that used to be the young group. Now it's like everybody knows technology for the most part. Occasionally, you'll
Right.
have a dinosaur that doesn't, but the majority of the people, and especially when you deal with millennials or younger, they want all of the information without any commitment, right? So to me,
Yeah.
I've always tried to match my technology with that and saying, okay, right from the beginning, I want them to, instead of filling out an application, I have them fill out a questionnaire, right? So same thing. I just think when you're telling somebody you're filling out a questionnaire compared to an application, it feels a little bit more. I don't know. I get more willingness, not the well. I'm not ready to apply yet, and it's like, well,
So it
you have
is
to
the
understand.
application. You just call it a questionnaire with your
I
wording.
call it questionnaire. And it makes it a
Yeah.
little easier for, I think, a lot of clients when they're, the mindset before you go to buy a house is I apply for something because I'm buying it. And that's what I'm applying for. Where the field that you and I work in as a broker, we're not we're personally not lending anything. We're brokers who we're trying to match them with whatever bank is going to fit their needs the best at whatever time that might be. So that might be, 6 months from now. So,
Right.
to say that they're applying, I'd like to just say, this is a questionnaire. I've used, from a technology standpoint, I use Perfect LO, which to me goes through exactly like a questionnaire. It asks them the details to help direct on what documents I'm going to need. Are you self-employed? Okay. How much of the business do you own? Do you own any other houses? Right? It really goes through, allows them to spend the time making sure that their questionnaire is dialed in. But then when it comes back to me is when my job starts. Right? So,
So you
um,
use Perfect LO as the front end, like app collection, but you call it a questionnaire. And then, did you say that you're using another system like Pre-Approve Me as well?
I do, yeah. So a couple of them that I'll say. We use Lending Pad for our main LOS right now, right? We're Calyx, but that dinosaur died with the 3.4. We're now at Lending Pad. My perfect LO application, once it's done, feeds everything into Lending Pad, right? At that point, once it pops it up for me and my team to look at as a lead, is when we go through and work that file. And what I mean by that, we're pulling credit, we're setting up them in our pre-approved me app, because if they are pre-approved, they're going to purchase a home, I want to make sure that that communication is there with the agent and documented, so it's not, well, I never got an update. How did I know the client was pre-approved? I didn't even know they applied with you. Or a lot
Right.
of times I'll get people that applied with me, and I know that this agent works in this area where I can assign them in pre-approved me app as well to that client. But the best part, as I mentioned, with doing that, I'm just spending the 10, 15 minutes of time during my time, right? When I'm saying a time when I'm scheduled to be sitting at my desk working, normally, 9 to 4, Monday through Friday, is the times that I'm sitting at my desk working, or they can count on me being available from that standpoint. During those times, I'm setting up the time to buy my weekend, right? When I put them in the pre-approved me app, I'm making sure that their MI rate is what their MI rate is, right? If they have a 707 credit score, they don't have the same PMI rate as a 720 or a 699. It's
Right.
important for a lot of people that, the real estate buying process, some people get so single-mindedly focused that my only concern is buying this house. And I don't care what the financing is, just tell me what my payment's going to
Right.
be. Well, wait,
Just give me the house.
you yeah, right. You're buying the money too, right? This is it's almost equally as important. And do you know what you're getting into, right? There's nothing worse than sending an agent out and you say, "Well, my client's pre-approved at 350." Okay, they get a $350,000 house and they see what the payment is with that association fee, with the PMI, and I don't want a payment that high. I can't do that. Right there,
Right.
you got to look and start to take some ownership with, what happened, right? And this has happened
Right.
in my career, which is why most of the things that you and I learn is the mistakes we make, or how we can be more efficient, or what can I do to make sure that that doesn't happen again. So
Right. So
partnering with pre-approved me.
I wanted to touch on pre-approve because I don't think a lot of people know what it is. I use it as well. So you're probably way over their heads, like, what are you talking about? So as we know, once you plug in their parameters, the client or the realtor can go in there and plug in purchase price, down payment, and it will allow them to do that based off of the parameters that you've already set in there. And if it goes outside of what you deem as like a comfortable qualifying zone, it will prompt them to reach out to you and say, "Hey, we need to look at these numbers deeper." But if the DTI is good, everything's good, the funds are there, and you've proven that, then they can generate their own pre-qual letters on the fly without needing you on the weekend.
100%. And part of that where it really works for me too is providing that service to the agents. I have some agents, and when they start working with other originators, they can't stand that. Then they're like, well, wait a minute, I got to
He
call the
didn't
guy
answer
on a
his
Saturday.
phone.
Yeah, you know how it goes. So to me, it's giving them the same things that I look at what the most millennials want. They want everything at their fingertips without having to rely on anybody else, right? Um, that's the same for, even I'm not a millennial, I'm just a hair over, but it's the same for me as well. If I'm an agent and I'm going out and showing a client, I don't want a general pre-approval letter, because I believe presentation on a lot of offers is what wins, right? So to have a pre-approval letter that matches the property address, that looks like the borrower really spent their time reviewing it, which is what that, is. As I said, I'm talking a lot about pre-approve me just because it's one of the things that save me a lot of time. The intricacies on it, though, are pretty simple, right? You're matching
Right.
your client's exact scenario. They're able to run it. The realtor is able to issue the pre-approval letter. The client is. I mean, I don't know about you, but there's nothing more frustrating to me when you're busy. And hey, will you run 4 different analysis for me?
Hey, there's 4 houses I want. How much are the payments? All that, right? And you're like, it's the same as the house you sent me before, but all right, I'll do it for you. Now you don't have to do that anymore.
It's $4 per thousand. Let's look at it that way. Well, wait a minute. Well, what if I want to do 1250 more? And it's like, okay.
Right.
So those things are fine. We want to be of service to our clients and be there for them to answer their questions. But at the same time, if I'm
It's
giving
not a
them
good
the
use of your
ability,
time.
some people work third shifts. Some people, don't start looking at things until 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and they want an answer. They should have the right to have an answer that's at least pretty darn accurate, but without calling me. So I really try to make sure from all aspects on what services can I add to my business that's not going to cheapen the experience, right? But it's also going to help build rapport, create a referable experience. So I've found that for me with using those two services combined, right? I like my questionnaire. I think it adds perfect. There's plenty of options, free options with Blink. Kind of does the same thing. To me, I really like using that, and I've stuck with it. Very cost effective as well. Same thing with Pre-Approve Me app. Not everybody uses it. I don't know why. I think it comes down to, personally, it takes an extra 5 or 6 minutes to set it up on the front end. So, a lot of
It
people only
saves you
want
how
to work
many?
what's in front.
Yeah, how much does that save you on the back end, though? I mean, sometimes hours on some clients.
100%, absolutely. Right. And the nice part for me is a lot of times it creates referrals, right? When the
Yeah.
process is easy, smooth, everything goes well, everybody has access to the information that they need at the time that they need it. That's a relationship that you want to be in, right? I mean, to
Right.
me, I've gotten a lot of agents that will come to me and say, "Hey, I've heard from Brian. He was showing me the app you guys use. That's pretty slick. Yeah, let's sit down and go over it." It's another friction point that our competitors have if they're going to big bank isn't working on the weekend. Big bank loan officer doesn't have any sort of technology other than a blanket pre-approval most of the time, to where for me we're trying to look at those friction points that
Mm-hmm.
consumers have, and how can we create um, a better process that makes it better for everybody. Not only for me, because if I am golfing on the weekends or riding bikes or doing whatever, I don't want to be missing out not only on the business but also on making sure that I'm upholding that service level.
Right. So you're able to have the best of both worlds. You're able to give them like the questions they have, they get answered right away. They have it right at their fingertips, but it also frees you up to have more time to do, what you want to do and actually live life. And as we've talked about, there's a lot of people in this industry that are working 12, 15, 18 hours because they don't want to miss out on the business. Whereas if they just leverage technology a bit, they could probably reduce that in half, if not more. Because, like, for me, I don't like to work more than 4 hours a day, and people think that's nuts. And do I always work four? No, sometimes I have to work six. But I mean, that's a lot better than having to work 12. And it's because of the systems that I have in place and the amount of business that I want to generate. I set a goal. And I say, okay, I reverse engineer it. How many deals do I need? How many clients is that? How many prospects do I need? How much marketing do I have to do? And then I just set the machine loose, and I know that's where I want to be. And I think a lot of people, if they just fine tune those things, man, they could just take so much of their life back.
Yeah, I think it's like you mentioned before, a lot of it is the mindset, right? And it's been brought to us too from a lot of the leaders, even in our own industry, right? I mean, we can look at, there are people that absolutely they love to work, right? And we could even say like one of the CEOs that that starts every day at 4 o'clock, and I mean, love the guy. I wish I had that, but to me, that's not me, and I'm not going to try
Right.
to be something that I'm not. I don't. They
If we
kind of
wake up
joke
at
when I
4 o'clock, we're riding bikes.
That's it. If I get up that early, it's normally, yeah, it's got to be a pretty good reason. But for the most part, if you're talking about reverse engineering it, for me, I'm not setting a cap on mine. I want to continue to grow, and you can. There's still you can grow with still the schedule that you have, right? With the schedule that I have. I mean, putting the right people in places around you, but also leveraging technology. I'm not capped because truthfully, my part of the job is advising on what loan product is best for our consumer.
Right.
Now, if I sat you in front of 40 transactions right now in your 4 hour workday, I guarantee you probably still have an hour and a half left to do something else other than you just went through 40 in a day. So a lot of times it's everybody always called the white knuckle syndrome, right? I got a file and I'm holding on to it. And I'm going to shop lenders and I'm going to find the perfect lender. Then I'm going to get to processing, but I'm going to keep following up with processing. And, being able to rely on your team is a big part. I know that's part of even your cool sign in the background. You've got a great team built with the Ehler lending team, right? You and your wife work together. You've got a good process to where you can
Yep.
handle as much as what you want to take on, but without sacrificing your mental sanity.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And like I haven't taken a paper app in over 2 years, and like you said, what that allows me to do is I can only need to spend 10 or 15 minutes talking to somebody when they call in, but that's good quality time. Like, where are you looking? Why are you looking to buy? Like digging into the real reasons of why they want this house and what their concerns and objections are. And the more I handle those up front, they're way less headache and stress down the rest of it. You don't get shopped as much. You don't have to deal with any of that, and way less phone calls that you have questions because you answer them all up front and built that rapport instead of spending that 15 minutes just, hey, what's your name, how do you spell it, and you don't get any value. They don't get any value from that.
No, it's data entry. I agree. That's why, for the most part, a lot of the times that I am spending is trying to explain my value proposition to clients. What separates me from the competition, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've used this analogy many times, but it's just like I like to play poker too. You look at professional poker players, and you always have the same guys at the finish table, the final table. Yet everybody has the same 52 cards. There
Mm-hmm.
are some of us that are better in this job than others, right? So how do you vocalize that? How do you explain to a client like, well, why are you better? To me, that during my 15 minutes that I'm trying to have that phone call is really honing in and getting better at that part with every conversation. On top of that, setting the precedence of how I run my business. If I don't do a
Right.
good enough job to get 2 referrals from you, I failed. So when I set it up that
So
way and explain it to them, I need this. It's a lot easier at the end of the transaction because they've had 30 days, 45 days to think about it. Who are they going to refer to me? You know?
So I would love to hear this because I think you brought up a really good point. If it, let's say I'm the client prospect calling in, and I say, Tom, I found you online. We talk a little bit, um, but I got this other guy. I'm talking to another guy. Their rates might be a little bit better. I don't know. Like, why should I choose you? Like, what would you say to someone that is definitely shopping and they just let you know straight up? Like, why? What's your response to that? Why do they choose you?
Sure. Now, so it's all, like I said, we're going to put me on the spot, and I love it with this. Most of the people, first of all, don't find me from just online, right? They come to me from a referral source. I don't buy leads. I'm not doing any marketing. So I'm going to answer it how most of the people come to me. If you come to me from a referral, let's say it's one of my agents that sent the deal over, I will explain to them the trust that I built with them over years of performing to making sure that I've had nothing but an A plus transaction on every one that we do. I'll explain to them some of the pitfalls that I've taken over from other companies, whether it's the stack of pre-approval letters I have that they didn't close, whether it's the fact that contract employment. I'll use some instances to where I see files get denied that come my way all the time because the originator doesn't know how to do their job as well as I do. They're selling CDs, or selling car refinances, or selling checking accounts where all I do is sell mortgages. If the day that your closing comes and the money isn't there and everything isn't finalized how it should be, it's one thing if I do a bad job for you, but you have to understand I lose a lifelong relationship in my business. I'm not putting billboards up, I'm not sending out mailers. I have to do such an amazing job for you that the referral partner that sent you to me will continue doing that because that's how I feed my family. So, a lot of times is really the importance, right? Does the client know how important you are? And what is it? Is it important because you need to make a commission? Um, no, that's to me not it. It's important to me because I have the trust of the person that they obviously already trust that referred them to me. I don't
Your
have a choice
reputation.
but to do an amazing job. And if I don't do an amazing job, unlike if you went to Big Box who already gave you that quote, let me ask you this question. What happens if you show up on closing day and the funds aren't there? Nothing. You had a bad transaction. It didn't go well, and that guy doesn't matter to him because there's no residual business, right? We're in a business where, unlike insurance sales or anything else where you have residual income, the only residual income I have is by how good of a job I do for the people that I'm serving to make sure that I can create a referable experience. So,
Right.
to me, regardless of where they come from, I'm hitting on the importance of what is my integrity with a client. I will, no matter what, make sure that things are done when they're supposed to be done because that's what it means to me, right? Where truthfully, if you go to big box bank, that's not going to happen, right? I mean, you're in the big machine, and if it happens, it happens. And oh, we didn't realize Minnesota was a wet funding state, so actually, we don't send the wire till the day after. Well, you're moving trucks in the parking lot, and is that really a position that you want to be in? And I hate to say creating fear, but I'm sharing realistic scenarios that I've been in and I've seen when I've been at closings where, I have a client that's selling a house and I'm doing the buy side on their new house, but the person they were selling to is using one of these companies that, local experts, which is what I consider you and I branding ourselves. I'm a local expert in my market, right? I can tell you
Right.
the community property state is, do you have to have your spouse's debts? There's so much, how hard it is to be an expert in an area. To try to be an expert in this field is one thing, but to try to be an expert and a local expert in all 50 states is impossible. So, to me, regardless if it's a lead or it's a referral, explaining, just like you asked me, why am I better? Right? And I'm better because on the day of closing, I'm going to guarantee your money's going to be there and things are going to go how you expect them to be so you can focus on what's important.
Yeah, I love it. And, my business is a little different because I'm probably about 80% self-generated. So it's not necessarily like I'm working leads because they watch my content and it's like a warm lead instead of just like a cold lead. So I do get shopped a little bit more. And the way that I always talk is very similar to what you say, is I say, how stressful would it be if 2 weeks from now, when you're locked in and you really can't change lenders, that all of a sudden everything changes? The fees are different. The cost for that rate is different. Because I've noticed a lot of these online companies, they don't lock the rate until that point. So they have that leverage and then they lock it and say, oh, well, now it's this. So they quote this up front, but then they wait until it's the point of no return and then they lock. And if someone comes to me with a crazy rate and they're like, well, they can lock it today, I'm like, hey, if they can lock it, do it. If you trust them and it's that low and you think they're going to close for you, you should go and do that right this second. And guess what? 90% of those people come back because those people can't lock it on that day.
They don't come through with what they say. Yeah,
They
absolutely.
don't
I
come
mean,
through.
part of that is character, right? You have character that's backed up through your reviews, right? You have character that's
Right.
backed up through your referral partners. To me, that's one of the biggest assets that we have. No matter what company you work with, as an individual, what is your social presence? Do you have
Right.
anybody that's ever like complaining or upset? No. We even had it in our employment agreement up until we got to the size that we are now, but it used to have a zero complaint policy. If I had one of my Ehles get a complaint over something, it's a terminable offense immediately. Because
Right.
truthfully, even on bad things that happen, I mean, sometimes stuff happens, right? How you're conveying that information and handling that shows the professional that you are. Because calling somebody every time, oh yeah, we're clear to close in 3 days, good to be. That's easy. Anybody could do it. But all of a sudden, you have a tough client that you had to switch lenders because you got a bad opinion on an underwrite. Getting ahead of that, making sure that the client understands how hard you're working for them and how you're delivering that news is what to me separates the LOs that are licensed originators compared to career mortgage brokers like you and myself.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's huge. I get I think the hard calls are way more important than the easy calls because, like you said, you address those up front and you set proper expectations, and that makes sure that people aren't going to have a bad taste in their mouth at the end. Because, as you said, reputation is 100% the most important. You can never get that back. So
No.
that's the 100% like hands down biggest thing you should focus on as a local broker, right? Is your reputation.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I had one that's that as I've grown on the digital side of things, I've actually started to get some leads just organically. And, it's the same pitch like I gave to you in a sense. Besides, I told him, hey, this is odd. I don't normally get people just find me offline. So I got to show you why I don't do any advertising because most people refer their friends and family to me. So I'm going to show you what that's like and just do an amazing job for you. Great. Most people, all they really want is they want somebody they can trust and know somebody that's really putting their needs before their own. I mean, I've had a couple at the end of last month where it was a real estate agent who was pushing for this closing to happen early, pushing, and I'm like, something isn't right. Why? And then you got to think about like, okay, she's pushing for the end of the month, probably has her mortgage payment due,
Yep.
and where's her desire? It's not to making sure that the client gets it fits for their schedule, but putting clients' needs in front of your own is one as well that I think, that continues to, people see that, your clients feel it, and therefore they feel more comfortable referring you.
I 100% agree. And I have one question because for me, I'd love to know. So you have the perfect LO on the front, and then you have the pre-approve me on the back. Is there a reason why you prefer the perfect LO to collect the questionnaire compared to using the one that's built into the pre-approve me?
So I used the pre-approved me one, and I just didn't care for it. From that perspective, I probably could have worked with those guys. I mean, they're uh, both guys who kind of own that company are always wanting to get better, always looking to invest in their own technology. But at the same time, I really like the questionnaire on Perfect LO, how it does it, gives them the secure portal. It is another spot for the client. Like, you get too many of these things, and sometimes people will be like, I'm frustrated. You know,
Right.
uh, I think when I was using just pre-approved me for my front-facing customer application, it was missing too many things, right? It wasn't diving into, okay, do you own 25% of a business? Perfect LO hits on all of those questions and gives me, in my opinion, gives me my condition sheet, right? And shares it to the
Right.
client. This is everything we need. And the details are so much more accurate than the front facing part with pre-approved me. So I've liked using pre-approved me strictly for why I signed up with it years ago. It's buying my time on the weekend. It gives my customers accurate information on their loan and on the weekends if they need to issue a pre-approval, or even if we do. I have some people that don't even log into the thing, but I know for me, I can hop on real quickly and send out a PDF to the
Right
agent
from your
without looking.
phone.
Yeah, so a lot of
Yeah.
times it's been helpful for me to have access to that, to where I can get out a pre-approval letter. I can look to see what, I'm not approving this person over a 44 DTI. Like you said, it might be something we can look at and try to get tighter on. They can say, okay, well, here, I found something. It says call your loan officer. It's at 47%. Well, let's run it and see. It keeps
Right.
me plugged in, but without having to be sitting at my desk 24/7.
Yeah, exactly. And I know they just came out with the new 1003, so it might solve some of those problems. Because I'm like you, I want as few systems as possible. So I'm gonna check out Perfect LO to see how they do it, and I'm gonna talk to the pre-approving guys and see if they can have something similar. Because like you, I'm always trying to just make sure that we're dialing in. Like I never accept good enough. It's like what how can we make it better? How can we make it smoother? And having just one system that does it all, that's like super important for me. Just like you said, you don't want the clients to have to log into multiple different things if you don't have to. If it all can be in just one place, it's just a slippery slope, easy for them to move through.
Yeah, well, I'll be excited to hear back from you on that because for me, it is, I would say is where I know there's room for improvement because it's I'm using multiple things that don't always communicate together. I finally got a lot of them to where it's all being done at the same time, but it's really hard to have the parameters on like MI rates set where I got to go in and do it. I got to spend the 5-10 minutes on pre-approve me. It'd be nice if it was automatically done. It's not, but that 5 or 10 minutes is still saving me, that 20, 30 minutes on the weekend because I have to get my computer open, wait for it to
Yep.
load, look up all that information to where I've invested the time with having a different system because it is a game changer for me on the weekends.
Yeah, it totally is. And one thing that I've done to streamline like sending my app out is I just get a custom domain. So we have husbandandwifeloanteam.com. And you
Yeah.
can change it. You can have whatever domain you want, and then you just 301 redirect it right to the link for the app. Because usually the app link is some big long ugly thing that I don't like
Yes.
to send that across. So I'll just send that nice pretty link, and it just once they hit it, it just forwards them right over to the app. And then I don't have to remember like what is that big long URL to get them there. So that's just a little tip for people watching that makes it way easier to send out your application link.
What are you using for your front end application then? Are you utilizing pre-approve me for it? Are you using a built-in one or Blink or what are you using?
Yep. So we were Flowify, and then we switched over to Pre-Approve Me since it has so many more features, like you said, on the back end of issuing it. And we haven't seen any reduction in applications coming through. But like you, I'm going to talk to these guys because I would love it to start off really more like a questionnaire, like if you were filling out an online form that's a little less um, personal, and then it grows into the loan questions as you go, so that you can just send that out and you don't have to send people to like a landing page and things like this and do the two-step where, hey, put in a couple details about what you want, but then now I got to follow up with you and now you got to fill out another application. It'd be nice if it was all just one seamless, thing that people go through. And so that's kind of where I'm going at next because I do like online marketing and things like that, and we get cold leads coming in. But they've been warmed up through our content. So the slippier that we can make it easier for them to go through and go right into the application, the better.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, keep me posted on that. I'd like to hear more. I mean, those guys, like I said, Mike. I don't know if you're working with Michael over at Pre-Approve Me, and
Yep.
everybody over there has been great to kind of take any information to get better. So that for me, it was like, okay, I really want to try it. I tried it. I really liked it. I like the questionnaire aspect. I like the detail on the checklist, and I people get scared, I still think, when you say you're applying, because the mindset is, well, I'm applying to buy something specific. And when you're
Hmm.
working with a broker, you're really not. We're gonna get you set and do the work up front, make sure that you're positioned in the best spot to get the best deal.
Exactly. The next thing I want to work with them is having some sort of pretty fees worksheet that we could generate as well, because I have a lot of people that want the complete breakdown on every property, especially
Yeah.
because I do. I know a lot of people don't love refis. I absolutely adore refis. I love refis. I don't have to work with realtors. We can just crank those out. And we've got it down to a science now to how we present the options to people to where they don't have to shop us because we just show them exactly what everything is, and there's no curtain that we're hiding things behind, and people love that transparency. But it does take extra work when you got to do multiple fees worksheets for different scenarios, so that they can choose their best option. And so that's what I'm going to be talking with them hopefully this month about dialing that in to make closing refis easier as well.
Interesting. Well, more power to you, my friend. I do not like I do not like the refund. Let's speak on the purchase side of things.
I know a lot of people don't, but I mean, for us, it's like the easiest transactions, and you get them done in about 14 days. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
No, it's definitely there. It's been a necessity for mine, but I don't. It's I always joke with even the people that are going out trying to find new business. Either you chase the chicken or you chase the egg. And it's always trying to get people like go after the chicken. It'll keep laying eggs. You go out and get that egg, and it's big. But more power to you. You're doing something right. I love all of the technology you bring. Everything. Just your ability, always trying to help others and get better. I learn a lot from you, and you're doing something right, brother.
Hey, I appreciate it. I mean, and you're the man. You're crushing it. And I love hearing all of your insights, and I want to thank you for sharing that with everybody.
Absolutely, brother. Have a great day. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, you too.